The Xylarian capital was alive with light and motion, a city of spires and floating bridges, where technology and art blended in dazzling harmony. At the heart of it stood the palace, a vast structure of golden walls and glass domes glittering under the light of the twin suns. The people of Xylar were proud, disciplined, and used to rules that guided every part of their lives. And at the center of this world lived the princess, Lysera, heir to the throne, known for her intelligence, poise, and unmatched skill in diplomacy. Lysera moved through her halls with grace, her long robes trailing behind her. Today was different. The air was tense. The Xylarian Council had summoned her for urgent matters. War plans, political debates, and reports from distant worlds were on the agenda. She had trained her mind for such moments, yet a small flicker of curiosity stirred within her. Humans, the Council had said, were joining the Galactic Alliance for the first time. They were unpredictable, untested, and far from Xylarian ways. The mere thought of meeting one made her pulse quicken. Outside the palace gates, a spacecraft approached. Unlike the polished and elegant vessels of the Xylarian fleet, it had a simple, practical design, clearly built for function rather than display. Its markings were foreign, and its engines hummed in a way that the guards had never heard before. The ship landed with precision, stirring dust and curiosity alike. From the hatch stepped a single figure, Captain Ethan Ryder. His uniform was dark, practical, and marked with the insignia of Earth's space forces. He carried no crown, no ceremonial decorations, only confidence in the way he walked. There was something in his posture, calm yet alert, that made the guards hesitate. They were trained to react to threats immediately, yet this human seemed different. Lysera was waiting in the grand hall when he arrived. She sat on her throne, a figure of authority, golden light glinting from her ornaments. Courtiers and guards lined the room, their whispers barely contained. When the human entered, there was a moment of silence, a pause that seemed to stretch longer than it should. Ethan bowed respectfully, though not in the stiff manner the Xylarian guards expected. "Princess Lysera," he said in clear, polite tones, "I come from Earth. My mission is to establish dialogue and cooperation between our peoples. I mean no offense or threat." Lysera's eyes widened slightly. Humans spoke differently from Xylarians. Their words were simple but carried weight. They did not need ornate language to command attention. They relied on sincerity and clarity. Already she found herself intrigued. "Your words are direct," she replied, her voice steady. "Most who enter these halls speak as if the throne itself demands their flattery." "I do not." Ethan inclined his head. "I respect you as a leader, not as a symbol. I have heard of your wisdom and courage. I hope to learn from it and perhaps share what humans can offer in return." There was something in his calm tone that made even the senior guards shift uneasily. This human did not fear them, nor did he bow excessively. He simply stood balanced between respect and confidence. Lysera felt a strange pull, a mixture of curiosity and admiration. A counselor stepped forward, attempting to maintain protocol. "Princess, the human may be skilled, but we must ensure he follows our customs." Lysera held up a hand. "Let him speak." "I wish to see this human for myself." The counselor bristled but stepped back. Ethan continued, "I have observed the Xylarian approach to governance and war. Your people are disciplined, skilled, and brave. But humans work differently. We rely on teamwork, trust, and adaptability. Where others see rules as unbreakable, we see possibilities." Lysera felt a spark of interest. Few beings had ever dared to speak so openly in the presence of royalty, and none had ever spoken with such respect while hinting at differences in thinking. She leaned forward slightly. "You speak of differences," she said softly. "Yet you stand here unafraid. Tell me, Captain, what makes you think you can survive among us?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Not just survive, Princess. I aim to understand, to cooperate, and to prove that humans can be allies, not just warriors. I do not assume superiority, but I do trust my abilities and the courage of those I work with." Lysera's attention sharpened. Courage, respect, intelligence. These were traits she valued above all, and the human seemed to possess all three. She realized, almost reluctantly, that he was unlike any being she had encountered in the galaxy. Before more could be said, the palace doors opened to reveal a display of Xylarian warriors demonstrating their combat drills. Ethan watched, noting the elegance, precision, and power of each movement. The princess followed his gaze, intrigued by the subtle interest he showed in her people. Most visitors gawked or underestimated them, but Ethan analyzed, appreciated, and understood. Suddenly, a signal flashed on the palace communication board, an alert from the training arena. A security system had malfunctioned, and the automated defense drones were running uncontrolled. The council grew tense. The drones were fast, dangerous, and equipped with weapons that could harm anyone in their path. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. "May I?" he asked. Lysera inclined her head. Without waiting for more instructions, he moved toward the exit, already assessing the paths, predicting the drone's movements. The princess and her guards followed, hesitant but trusting. In the arena, chaos had erupted. Drones spun and darted, sensors flashing as they targeted anything moving. Human ingenuity clashed with Xylarian technology. Ethan dodged with ease, disabling drones with quick, precise movements, sometimes using the environment to his advantage rather than brute force. The princess watched, her breath caught. She had expected humans to be strong, perhaps clever, but this was something else. This was strategy, courage, and adaptability in action. And when a drone targeted her directly, Ethan reacted instantly, stepping between her and danger. His arm moved fast, a simple motion that saved her without fanfare or hesitation. For a brief moment, Lysera forgot everything else: the throne, the council, her duties. All that mattered was the human who had moved to protect her, not out of obligation, but out of instinct. She realized then that humans were not merely another species in the galaxy. They were something unpredictable, something extraordinary. Once the drones were disabled, Ethan checked to ensure the princess was unharmed. She nodded, unable to speak immediately, caught between relief and fascination. Even the council, usually critical and rigid, could not hide their astonishment. "You have skill," Lysera said finally, her voice steady but softer than before. "And courage. Humans may be different, but you are remarkable." Ethan shook his head slightly. "I only did what anyone with respect for life would do, Princess. Courage is not in showing strength alone. It is in protecting others, even when the odds are against you." Lysera's eyes lingered on him. Her thoughts raced. Here was a being who did not seek power, yet commanded attention, who did not flaunt strength, yet earned respect, who followed principles, yet was flexible and quick-thinking. She had seen kings and generals, diplomats and spies, but none had left such an impression in a single day. The palace grew quiet again, the echoes of the emergency fading. The princess turned to the human soldier, a strange mixture of admiration and curiosity in her gaze. "Captain Ethan Ryder," she said, "you have entered my halls and proven yourself without even knowing the rules fully. Tell me, what else can humans do?" Ethan's smile was calm yet full of promise. "Princess, I hope you will allow me to show you. Humans are capable of many things, but the most important is cooperation, working together with courage and respect. If you allow it, I believe we can face threats, explore possibilities, and maybe even change the galaxy for the better." Lysera's mind raced. She had met many beings in her life, and most were focused on power, status, or self-interest. But this human, he seemed to think beyond himself, and in doing so he made her forget her throne, forget her formal role for a brief moment, and see the world through a different lens, a lens of courage, respect, and possibility. The counselors whispered among themselves. The palace guards exchanged glances, and the princess remained silent for a moment, considering the human who had walked into her life so unexpectedly. The twin sons of Xylar cast long beams through the palace windows, illuminating both the throne and the visitor who had already begun to shift the course of history, not through power but through character. And as the princess looked at him, she realized something profound, perhaps for the first time in her life. The throne was not the most important thing in the room. The night had fallen over the Xylarian palace, but the lights of the city beyond glowed like stars on the ground. Princess Lysera could not sleep. Her thoughts kept returning to the human soldier who had entered her halls earlier that day. Captain Ethan Ryder was unlike anyone she had ever met. Calm, confident, courageous, and strangely humble, all in one. Yet she could not ignore her duties. The council insisted that all guests from unknown civilizations undergo the trial of courage, a test designed to measure skill, resolve, and ability to handle danger. For Xylarians, this trial was a rite of passage, a way to prove one's worth. It had never failed to intimidate outsiders. Lysera watched as Ethan was led to the arena. The place was vast, a circular chamber surrounded by high walls and platforms. Artificial landscapes simulated forests, cliffs, and rivers. Above, hovering drones monitored every movement. The arena's lighting shifted constantly, simulating day, night, and sudden storms. Even the air was conditioned to replicate extreme weather. Captain Ryder, one of the Xylarian trainers, said, "You will navigate this trial. Your success will determine whether we can trust humans in our world. Fail and, well, you will not be invited again." Ethan nodded calmly. "Understood. I will do my best." Lysera observed from a viewing platform, curiosity mixed with a hint of excitement. She had seen the trial many times before, but humans had never faced it. They were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be dangerous or brilliant. The trial began. Immediately, obstacles appeared, steep cliffs that required balance, moving platforms over deep chasms, and sudden mechanical traps. Other Xylarian candidates relied on strength, leaping over gaps or using energy tools to bypass dangers. Ethan, however, paused briefly at each challenge, studying patterns and planning each movement carefully. He did not rush. He adapted. Lysera's eyes followed his every step. He dodged a falling energy beam by sliding under it, then used a loose rope to swing across a pit rather than relying on mechanical aid. It was clever, precise, and unexpected. But then the trial escalated. The arena shifted suddenly, simulating a storm. Wind gusts threw off balance, and water flooded sections of the floor. Artificial thunder boomed, and lightning flashes illuminated the chamber. Most candidates struggled, slipping and losing focus. Ethan, however, adjusted, using his weight and movement to stay steady. He encouraged a small Xylarian trainee nearby, helping the alien regain balance. Lysera felt a strange warmth of admiration. Humans, she realized, were not only courageous, they were capable of quick thinking and empathy, even in extreme situations. That combination was rare among Xylarians, who valued skill and strength over teamwork in trials. As Ethan neared the center of the arena, the trial took its most dangerous turn. Drones programmed for combat swarmed the area. They were sleek, metallic, and armed with non-lethal but powerful taser beams, their sensors locked on targets, scanning for movement. Most Xylarians would rely on weapons or brute strength to survive. Ethan paused. He scanned the drones, noticed their movement patterns, and analyzed their weaknesses. Then, with quick but controlled motions, he led the drones into a narrow passage, trapping them temporarily. Using improvised tools, a pole, a loose panel, and a rope, he disabled them one by one. Lysera gasped. He was using intelligence, creativity, and calmness rather than just force. This was something she had never witnessed, but the real test came unexpectedly. One drone malfunctioned and broke free from his traps. It surged toward Lysera, who had come closer to the viewing platform to watch more clearly. Guards were ready to intervene, but Ethan acted first. He sprinted, sliding under the drone's energy beam, and caught a dangling energy cable. With a swift motion, he used it to redirect the drone's energy back into a containment field, stopping it in its tracks. The crowd of Xylarians gasped. Even the seasoned trainers murmured in disbelief. Lysera's heart raced. She realized that the human's courage was not just in facing danger, it was in protecting others without hesitation, even when the odds were against him. She could see it in his calm eyes, steady hands, and precise movements. He had no intention of showing off. He only acted. Once the drones were neutralized, Ethan turned to ensure that the princess and the spectators were safe. His expression was calm, almost casual, as if what he had done was ordinary. But to Lysera, it was extraordinary. She found herself thinking of him differently. No Xylarian had ever made her forget protocol and status so quickly. He had entered her world, faced extreme danger, and emerged not only unscathed but admirable. The trial ended and the audience erupted in applause, not just for surviving but for the intelligence, courage, and compassion shown. Even the Xylarian trainers, who had seen countless candidates, nodded with respect. Lysera descended to meet him after the trial. Her steps were measured, yet her curiosity pushed her forward. "Captain Ryder," she said, "you have passed the trial of courage. But I must ask, how do you remain so calm in the face of danger?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Princess, I have learned that fear is natural, but it must not control your actions. The moment you let fear guide you, mistakes follow. Focus, observation, and careful action can turn danger into an opportunity. And of course, protecting others gives purpose to courage." Lysera studied him. She had faced many threats herself, trained in combat and diplomacy, yet she had never thought of courage in this way. She realized that humans had a different understanding of bravery, one that combined thought, empathy, and quick action. "Your ways are unusual," she admitted, a smile forming. "Most of my people rely on strength or authority. You rely on wisdom and timing. It is impressive." Ethan inclined his head. "I have learned that strength alone is not enough. Adaptability, respect, and teamwork often matter more than power." The princess paused. She had seen leaders fall because they could not adapt, rulers who were respected only for authority, and warriors who could fight but not think. This human, with his calm demeanor and clever mind, seemed to embody the qualities she had long admired but rarely found together. For a long moment, silence passed between them. The palace guards shifted uneasily. They were trained to expect formality, ceremony, and protocol, but this interaction, this calm exchange between princess and human, was something beyond their understanding. Finally, Lysera spoke. "Captain, you have shown skill, courage, and wisdom. But there is something more. A presence that is hard to explain. Humans are not known for diplomacy in our histories, yet I find myself listening to you differently." "Why is that?" Ethan looked thoughtful. "Perhaps it is because I do not see you as a ruler first, but as a person. We humans respect individuals. Titles matter less than character. And character is what I admire in you, Princess." Lysera blinked. She'd expected words of flattery or simple respect, but this honesty and clarity was unfamiliar. She felt a rush of curiosity and admiration. Her throne, her power, her duties, all of it seemed distant, almost secondary. For a brief moment, she could focus only on the human who had faced danger, solved problems, and spoken honestly to her. "Perhaps humans are more remarkable than I was told," she whispered almost to herself. Ethan smiled, sensing her fascination but remaining humble. "Perhaps, but I am only one human. The rest will show you their ways in time." The night deepened, but the city and palace seemed brighter to Lysera. She realized that the day had changed something, not just in the palace but in her own perception. Courage, wisdom, and character mattered more than gold, power, or titles. And this human soldier had shown her that in ways no Xylarian had before. As she returned to her chambers, Lysera could not stop thinking about him. How a single human could enter a palace, navigate trials, and face danger with such calm skill. How he had made her forget, even for a moment, the weight of her throne. She wondered what else he might do, what lessons he might teach, and how he might challenge her world in ways she had never imagined. Outside, the twin moons of the Xylarian sky shone, casting pale light over the city. Ethan returned to his quarters, reviewing the events of the day. He had not come to impress, to dominate, or to take power. He had come to understand, to act wisely, and to protect. And in doing so, he had already begun to make an impact, far beyond what either humans or Xylarians might have predicted. And somewhere in the palace, the princess, heir to the throne, trained in diplomacy, strategy, and war, smiled softly. She could not explain why, but she felt a sense of anticipation. This human soldier, Captain Ethan Ryder, had arrived unexpectedly, yet she sensed he was destined to play a role far greater than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. The palace was quieter than usual the next morning. The usual bustle of courtiers and servants had a subdued edge, as if everyone sensed that yesterday had changed something in the royal halls. Princess Lysera moved through the corridors with measured steps, but her thoughts were not on schedules or meetings. Instead, they drifted toward the human soldier, Captain Ethan Ryder. He had not just survived the trial of courage, he had changed the way she thought about bravery and leadership. More than that, he had earned a kind of trust that was rare in her world. Xylarians respected strength and tradition, but humans, she realized, offered something different, something she could not yet put into words. Ethan was in the palace courtyard, inspecting some of the mechanical structures left from the trial arena. He moved with quiet efficiency, adjusting panels, checking energy flows, and noting weaknesses in the design. Lysera watched from the balcony above. He was not a mere soldier. His mind worked constantly, analyzing and adapting. She descended the stairs and approached him cautiously. "Hey, Captain Ryder," she said, her voice soft. "You have already impressed everyone with your courage. But I have another request." Ethan looked up, giving a slight polite nod. "Anything, Princess." "I want to show you the palace beyond what the council allows," she said, glancing around to ensure no one overheard. There are places you cannot see, the library, the archives, secret passages. I wish to know your thoughts on them. Ethan's eyes lit up. I would be honored, Princess. Knowledge and understanding are important. They walked together through corridors that twisted like a maze, past rooms filled with artifacts, maps of distant star systems, and historical records of Xylarian triumphs and failures. Lysera spoke of her people, their values, and the careful balance of politics and diplomacy she navigated every day. Ethan listened attentively, asking questions that showed he was not only curious but thoughtful. You think differently from the others? Lysera said finally, pausing in front of an ancient mural. Xylarians rely on order and hierarchy. Humans, you rely on choice, creativity, and trust. How do you decide whom to follow or whom to trust? Ethan considered her question. Trust is earned through actions, not titles or words. I watch, I learn, and I act. If someone proves themselves reliable, I rely on them. If they fail, I adjust my approach. People are not perfect, Princess, but understanding them makes cooperation possible. Lysera was quiet for a moment. She had heard political advisors speak of alliances, loyalty, and betrayal countless times, but hearing it from him, from someone who had no duty to flatter or manipulate, felt real. It was an honesty she was not accustomed to. Their conversation was interrupted by a subtle sound, the soft movement of a shadow along the walls. Lysera stiffened. Someone is watching us, she whispered. Ethan immediately shifted, scanning the surroundings. Not unusual, he said calmly. Palaces have spies and secret observers. We must remain aware. Sure enough, a small figure emerged from a side passage, a palace clerk carrying a sealed message. Princess Lysera, the clerk said nervously. This just arrived. It is urgent. Lysera took the message, breaking the seal carefully. Her eyes narrowed as she read. The paper detailed a plan by certain nobles to undermine her authority. They intended to betray the Empire, using secret allies and advanced technology to seize control while presenting the princess as weak or indecisive. She looked at Ethan, her expression tense. They plan to act soon. The council may not be aware, or worse, some members are part of it. I cannot handle this alone. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we should act carefully. Hasty moves will expose us, but with planning we can prevent the plot without revealing your vulnerability. Lysera felt a strange relief. She had grown up learning to trust only a few advisors, and even then, carefully. But here was a human, a stranger in her world, offering a plan, not arrogance or self-interest. She realized she could trust him. Very well, she said, determination in her voice. We must be discreet. No one outside this room can know. Will you help me, Captain? I will, Ethan replied. Not for power or recognition, but because it is the right thing to do. The next hours were spent quietly, reviewing palace layouts, security systems, and communication channels. Ethan suggested modifications, simple but clever ways to monitor the movements of the conspirators without alerting them. Lysera was impressed, not only with his intelligence but with the calm manner in which he approached danger and strategy. They moved to the palace library, where ancient records revealed past betrayals and coups. Lysera shared the lessons learned by her ancestors. Ethan listened, absorbing information with ease, occasionally asking questions that revealed patterns she had not noticed before. It seems your people value history, he observed, yet sometimes they ignore it in practice. Patterns repeat and the clever adapt. That is why trust, observation, and action matter more than tradition alone. Lysera nodded. She realized that humans offered perspectives her people had rarely considered. They were not constrained by ceremony, by fear of judgment, or by pride. They acted with logic, courage, and sometimes heart. As night fell, they moved to the private corridors that led to hidden observation points. From there, they could see parts of the palace normally inaccessible to outsiders. The traitorous nobles were active, meeting quietly, passing information, and planning their next steps. Ethan suggested careful surveillance. We observe but do not confront yet. They will reveal themselves if we wait. Timing is critical. When they act, we must be ready. Lysera watched him, realizing that he was not just a soldier, he was a strategist, an advisor, and someone who could think beyond the immediate danger. She found herself feeling a mixture of admiration and reliance. For the first time, she considered that humans were not just allies. They could be partners in ways her own people could not imagine. Hours passed in quiet observation. Conversations between Ethan and Lysera grew more personal, though careful. She spoke of her fears, the weight of responsibility, and her desire to see her empire strong and just. He listened without judgment, offering guidance and perspective when asked, never intruding, never commanding. "You are different from anyone I have met," Lysera said finally. "Not just brave but wise. Humans, you think in ways that surprise me." Ethan smiled faintly. "We must adapt, Princess. Our survival depends on learning quickly, helping each other, and making the right choices." "Perhaps that is what surprises you most," Lysera nodded. She realized he was right. His presence, his calm skill, and his insights made her question what she had always believed about power, loyalty, and leadership. For the first time, she saw an alternative way to rule, not through fear or strict tradition, but through courage, wisdom, and alliance. As dawn approached, the princess and the human soldier concluded their observations. The conspirators had not yet acted, but their plans were clear. Lysera knew that soon action would be necessary. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we must be ready. The council may not see the danger coming, and I cannot reveal what we know without risking everything." Ethan nodded. "We will act carefully. Trust, timing, and courage will be our greatest tools. And we will succeed, Princess, not because of strength alone, but because of strategy and preparation." Lysera studied him. She had trusted advisors before, but none had inspired her confidence so completely. Ethan was not only capable, he was thoughtful, wise, and courageous. Her admiration for him deepened, though she knew it was dangerous to feel so strongly for someone from another world. Still, as they parted for the night, a quiet bond had formed between them. A bond based on respect, shared purpose, and understanding. Neither fully realized it yet, but it was the beginning of something powerful, an alliance that could change the future of the Xylarian Empire, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Lysera returned to her chambers, unable to sleep. She gazed out over the city, watching the glow of the twin moons reflected on golden spires. In her heart, she acknowledged a truth she could not ignore. The human soldier had shifted her world. He had entered the palace, navigated trials, and earned not only her trust but her fascination. She did not yet know what would come next, but she felt certain that Captain Ethan Ryder would be at the center of it. And somewhere in his quarters, Ethan prepared quietly for what was coming. He had learned to trust his instincts, to plan carefully, and to act decisively. He had not come to rule, to conquer, or to gain favor. He had come to observe, assist, and protect, and already, he had begun to leave his mark on a world far different from his own. The night ended, but the anticipation of what was to come lingered in the palace halls. Somewhere in the shadows the conspirators plotted, somewhere in the light the princess and the human soldier prepared, and somewhere in between the first threads of a great alliance were being woven, an alliance that could change everything. The palace of Xylar was quiet at first light, but beneath the calm tension simmered. Princess Lysera had sensed it. The conspirators, hidden among the council and the guards, were moving their pieces into place. Today would be the test not of courage in a trial arena, but of courage in reality. Ethan Ryder had risen early. The night's observations had given him a clear picture of the threats they faced. He moved through the corridors, checking security systems, reviewing emergency plans, and quietly instructing a small group of loyal Xylarians. Their expressions were a mixture of fear and awe. Few had ever worked alongside a human in such an intimate, trusting way. Lysera watched from her chambers as Ethan prepared. He did not carry a sense of urgency or panic, only focus. That calm confidence made her heart quicken in a way she could not explain. She had seen many leaders and warriors in her life, but none commanded attention by simply being prepared, confident, and clever. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the palace. Red lights flashed along the hallways. The conspirators had begun. Elite security forces, trained and armed, were moving to capture the princess and seize control of key areas. Their movements were precise, but they had underestimated one thing: Ethan and his small, loyal team. "Princess Lysera," Ethan said calmly, as he met her in the central hall, "stay close and follow my instructions. We can protect the palace if we work quickly and smartly." Lysera nodded. She felt fear, yes, but also a strange excitement. She was not just observing courage this time, she was part of it. And she trusted the human soldier completely. The first wave of attackers came from the main entrance. They moved silently, expecting the palace to be caught off guard. Ethan and his team were ready. He had positioned energy nets and simple traps along the corridors, using the palace's architecture to their advantage. As the intruders advanced, they found themselves delayed, funneled into narrow passages and caught in containment fields. Lysera watched from a balcony above, holding her breath. She had trained for emergencies, but she had never seen strategy used in such a precise, effective way. Ethan moved through the corridors like a shadow, anticipating every movement, thinking 3 steps ahead. A small group of attackers tried to reach her chamber from a hidden passage. Ethan noticed first. He sprinted ahead, sliding under a laser barrier, and redirected the attackers into a trap he had set earlier. With quick, controlled motions, he neutralized the threat without unnecessary force. "Keep moving, Princess," he called. "We must secure the inner palace first." Lysera followed, her pulse racing. She could see now why the human had earned the respect of so many in such a short time. Courage alone was not enough. Strategy, observation, and adaptability were what saved lives. In the Grand Hall, a larger group of conspirators had gathered, using advanced weapons to force their way past guards. Ethan assessed the situation. There were too many to confront directly, so he used misdirection. He guided his team through side corridors, drawing the attackers into positions where they could be contained without endangering the princess. Lysera marveled at his quick thinking. Every movement was precise, calculated, and effective. He did not waste energy or risk lives unnecessarily, and yet he remained calm, confident, and respectful even in the chaos. The battle moved to the throne room. It was the heart of the palace, and the conspirators knew it. They wanted to control it, to force Lysera to surrender, but Ethan anticipated this. He had prepared the room with careful planning, barriers, energy shields, and fallback positions. The first attackers entered the room, expecting the princess to be trapped. Instead, they found themselves blocked and outmaneuvered. Ethan moved like a ghost, his actions swift but controlled. He used his knowledge of the room, combined with the loyalty of a few brave Xylarians, to stop the attackers in their tracks. Lysera, standing near the center of the room, felt a surge of admiration. Not fear, not doubt, but respect. This human had turned the palace into a fortress, using strategy and intellect rather than sheer strength alone. And he had done it to protect her, not for glory or power, but because it was the right thing to do. The conspirators regrouped, trying a new approach. They attempted to breach the communications hub, to disable alarms and call for reinforcements. Ethan reacted immediately. He led a small team through maintenance corridors, silently intercepting the intruders and neutralizing the threat before they could reach their goal. Lysera's mind raced. She realized that humans were not only brave, they were adaptable, thoughtful, and able to see solutions that others could not. She had always believed in Xylarian skill and precision. Yet here was a human showing her that courage combined with intelligence could overcome even the most formidable opposition. The final confrontation came when the leader of the conspirators, a cunning noble, attempted to force his way toward Lysera. Ethan intercepted him, using both tactics and clever maneuvering to isolate the intruder from his forces. The noble realized too late that he had underestimated the human. "You think you can control this palace?" Ethan said calmly, blocking the noble's path. "Courage without strategy is useless. Loyalty and intelligence protect what strength alone cannot." The noble hesitated, then surrendered as Ethan signaled the loyal guards to secure him. The palace was safe. The conspirators were neutralized. And for the first time, Lysera allowed herself to breathe fully. She turned to Ethan, her eyes bright with admiration. "You have done what few could imagine. You have saved the palace, my people, and me. I cannot thank you enough." Ethan shook his head slightly. "I only did what was necessary, Princess. Courage is not about showing strength, it is about doing what must be done to protect others." Lysera smiled softly. She had seen many warriors, many leaders, and many humans, but none had moved her as he had. He had entered her world, faced dangers she could barely imagine, and emerged not only victorious but honorable. The palace slowly returned to normal. Guards secured corridors, council members gathered to assess the situation, and the city outside remained unaware of the battle that had taken place within the palace walls. Yet the bond between Lysera and Ethan had grown stronger. It was not just trust, it was admiration, respect, and the beginning of something more. In private, Lysera reflected on the day's events. The throne she had always cherished, the power she had been trained to uphold, seemed less important now. What mattered more was courage, loyalty, and intelligence, the qualities that Ethan had shown in abundance. And she realized that perhaps the galaxy had never truly seen the potential of humans until now. Ethan, meanwhile, quietly assessed the palace for any remaining threats. He did not seek recognition or reward. His satisfaction came from knowing that the princess and her people were safe, that the conspirators had been stopped, and that his actions had made a difference. By evening, the palace was calm. Lasera found him in the observation chamber, reviewing patrol routes and discussing future security measures. She approached silently, watching him work. "You are remarkable," she said softly, a hint of awe in her voice. Ethan looked up and smiled. "I only do what must be done, Princess. It is not about being remarkable, it is about being prepared and acting wisely." Lasera nodded. She knew that he was right. Yet she also knew that not everyone could act with such clarity, courage, and calm. He had changed her view of humans forever. As the sun set over the twin moons of Xylar, the palace seemed peaceful once more. Yet Lasera and Ethan both understood that the galaxy was full of challenges. New threats could appear at any time. But for now they had survived, and they had done so together. And in that survival a bond had formed, an unspoken trust and understanding that went beyond words, beyond protocol, and beyond fear. The human soldier had entered her life and shown her a world where courage, intelligence, and respect mattered more than titles or power. And in doing so, he had captured her attention, her admiration, and perhaps even her heart. The battle of shadows had ended, but the story of trust, courage, and alliance was only beginning. The palace of Xylar had returned to its usual rhythm, yet it felt different. The events of the past days, the trial of courage, the attempted coup, and the battle in the shadows, had left their mark. Princess Lasera walked through the corridors, her thoughts heavy with reflection. She had faced danger before, commanded troops, and handled political crises, but nothing had moved her like the presence of Captain Ethan Ryder. He had entered her world as an outsider, yet he had earned the trust and admiration of not just her, but the palace guards and even skeptical council members. He had shown courage, intelligence, and wisdom, all tempered by humility and respect. Lasera paused before the grand hall. Today she would speak to the council, not as a princess under threat, but as a leader strengthened by experience and alliance. She had decided that Ethan's contributions should be recognized, though she would do so carefully, respecting Xylarian tradition. Inside the hall, councilors and officials murmured among themselves. The attempted coup had shaken them, but it had also revealed weaknesses in their systems and in their own assumptions. Many looked to Lasera for guidance, uncertain how to move forward. She stood tall, radiating the calm authority that had earned her throne, but her mind was also on the human who had changed everything. "Councilors," she began, her voice clear and steady, "we have survived a great threat, one that tested not only our strength but our wisdom. Today I wish to recognize not only the loyalty of our guards, but the courage of an ally who has shown us what it means to act with intelligence, strategy, and heart." She gestured toward the entrance. Ethan stepped forward, calm but attentive. The council members exchanged glances, some puzzled, some intrigued. A human soldier standing in their royal hall, it was unprecedented. "This is Captain Ethan Ryder from Earth," Lasera continued. "He came to our world as a visitor, and in the days that followed he proved not only courage in the face of danger but insight and loyalty beyond what we expected. He has saved this palace, protected my people, and shown that humans, though different from us, can be wise, brave, and honorable allies." The hall was silent. Some council members whispered to each other, unsure how to react. But the guards and staff who had witnessed the events of the past days nodded in agreement. The evidence was clear. Ethan had acted decisively without seeking recognition, and with a level of skill and courage that none could deny. Lasera's gaze met Ethan's. He nodded slightly, acknowledging her words, yet his expression remained humble. "I did what was necessary, Princess," he said simply. "Courage is not in claiming glory. It is in protecting others and doing what is right." Lasera smiled. "And in doing so, you have earned our respect. You have also shown me something I had not fully realized. Humans can offer more than strength. They bring insight, adaptability, and a perspective that can change the outcome of even the most dangerous situations." A few councilors stood, offering cautious applause. Others remained seated, still adjusting to the unprecedented acknowledgement. But the mood of the hall shifted. The recognition was not about favor or ceremony. It was about merit, action, and character. After the ceremony, Lysera led Ethan to the palace gardens. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting soft silver light over fountains and flowers. The air was calm, carrying the scent of blooming flora from distant worlds. For the first time in days, Lysera allowed herself to breathe fully. "You have changed more than the palace, Ethan," she said softly, looking at him. "You have changed me. I have always believed in strength, skill, and tradition, but you have shown me that courage combined with intelligence and respect can be far more powerful." Ethan regarded her calmly, yet there was a gentle warmth in his eyes. "I did not come to change you, Princess. I came to act wisely, to protect and to understand. But I'm glad that my actions have had a positive impact." Lysera smiled, feeling a mixture of admiration and something deeper, a connection she could not yet fully explain. "It is more than impact. You have made me see possibilities I had never considered. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." Ethan chuckled softly. "Perhaps. But humans, like all beings, are defined by choices, courage, and cooperation. You have seen that in action now. And you have proven that even in a world of strict rules, wisdom, and tradition, new ways can emerge." The garden was quiet, except for the gentle sound of water flowing in the fountains. Lysera studied him, realizing how remarkable it was that someone from another world could feel so familiar, yet completely new. She had expected a soldier, perhaps a visitor, but instead, she had found an ally, a strategist, and a being who could inspire trust and respect in ways her own people rarely did. "Ethan," she said after a pause, "the palace is safe, the conspirators are dealt with, and the council will move forward more carefully now. But I sense that your presence here is only the beginning. The galaxy is vast and challenges will come again." "Will you stay to help us?" Ethan considered her words. "I will stay, Princess, not for titles or power, but to assist where I can. There is much to learn from each other, and much to protect. If I can help your people and your leadership, I will." Lysera's eyes reflected a quiet satisfaction. She had not just found a soldier or an ally. She had found someone who could challenge her thinking, expand her perspective, and share the weight of leadership in ways that others could not. "Then let it be so," she said softly, feeling a sense of relief and anticipation. "The Xylarian Empire and Earth may be different, yet together, perhaps we can achieve far more than either of us imagined." Ethan nodded, sensing the significance of her words. "Perhaps, Princess, and perhaps in this partnership, both our worlds will grow stronger." The next days were filled with planning and cooperation. Ethan worked alongside Lysera and her advisors to improve palace security, strengthen alliances, and develop strategies for potential external threats. His influence was subtle but profound. He did not override decisions or claim authority, yet his suggestions often led to solutions that Xylarian minds alone had not conceived. Lysera observed him quietly, noting how he treated everyone with respect, listened carefully, and acted decisively when needed. His presence inspired confidence, not fear. He reminded her that true courage was not only about action but about integrity, understanding, and compassion. One evening, as they reviewed reports in the observation chamber, Lysera turned to him. "Ethan, I have realized something important. The throne, my title, my responsibilities, they matter, yes. But they are not everything. What matters more is courage, loyalty, and the ability to make the right choices even when no one else will." Ethan smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "Then you are already a great leader, Princess. Titles mean little if one cannot act wisely and justly. You have proven that in these past days." Lysera felt a quiet pride, yet it was tempered with humility. She knew the galaxy would continue to challenge her, and she knew she would face dangers beyond the palace walls. But with Ethan by her side, she felt a new kind of confidence, one born not of fear, but of understanding, partnership, and trust outside. The twin moons of Xylar reflected on the palace towers, casting a gentle glow. The city below had no idea how close it had come to chaos, or how a single human soldier had altered the course of events. Yet Lysera knew, and she knew that humans underestimated for so long had the potential to inspire courage, creativity, and cooperation across the galaxy. In that quiet moment, She realized that history was being written, not only by her ancestors or by her throne, but by those who acted with wisdom, courage, and heart. And Captain Ethan Ryder, who had entered her palace as an unknown visitor, had become a part of that history. "Thank you," she said softly, not for the first time, and not merely for saving the palace. "Thank you for showing me a new way to see the world." Ethan inclined his head, eyes steady. "It is I who should thank you, Princess. You trusted me when others might have doubted. You allowed cooperation, courage, and understanding to guide your choices. That is a rare quality in any leader." Lysera smiled, feeling a quiet warmth in her chest. She had learned much from him, about courage, strategy, loyalty, and the value of different perspectives. And she knew that this partnership, born of trust and action, would shape not only the Xylarian Empire but the galaxy itself. As the palace settled into the quiet of night, Lysera looked out over the city. She saw possibilities where there had once been limitations. She saw courage, wisdom, and partnership as forces more powerful than fear or betrayal. And she knew that this human soldier who had entered her halls unexpectedly had changed everything. The galaxy was vast, filled with uncertainty and challenges, but for the first time Lysera felt ready, not alone, but with an ally she could trust completely. Together they had faced danger, revealed conspiracies, and survived. And together, they would continue to build a future where courage, wisdom, and cooperation could shine, uniting worlds that had once seemed impossibly distant. And in that new dawn, Princess Lysera and Captain Ethan Ryder understood something fundamental. Sometimes, the greatest heroes are not the ones with titles or crowns, but the ones who act with courage, wisdom, and heart, and in doing so change the course of history.